What a video. I don't even think I had to pay the people to say that. It's very touching.
How you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, but similar to our colleagues, I think I should be interviewing you. You're
Oh my God.
cool as a cucumber up here. Or I like Tiffany's idea of riding on elephants. That was
I like that too. By the way, nice bow tie.
Thank you. It took me 16 times to tie it, but
Yeah, good mind, like minds think alike. Okay. All right. So Barry, I remember we had talked before, and you had mentioned that you were a first-generation college student.
Mm-hmm.
So, like many of our first-generation college students, how did you land at UCF, and how did your experience here change the trajectory of your life?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that everybody in the room probably wants to go back to college. College was, bar none, one of the best periods of our lives, right?
I don't want to leave college, man.
It was great. So tons of nostalgic memories. As far as how it changed the trajectory of my life, everything in my life today is more or less connected to UCF. First and foremost, my beloved wife here, Rosie, tonight. Her and I met in college, been married almost 23 years. As you saw in the video, we have two beautiful daughters, so my family is precious to me and means the world to me. Beyond that, another person at the table is my business partner, Sean Hayes, that you saw on screen. Sean and I were pledge brothers in the Pike fraternity, best friends through college. We used to talk about going into business together, like probably a lot of college students, but we were crazy enough to actually do it. So in our mid-20s, we started on this entrepreneurial path together and been business partners for 25 years. The third thing I would mention is my educational foundation at UCF was very practical in terms of how I was able to use it in the business world. For the fellow finance geeks in the audience, things like the capital asset pricing model, Black-Scholes options pricing model, believe it or not, these are things I get to actually apply in business. So accounting, everyone knows that accounting is ubiquitous and used in every business. So things like accounting concepts and principles have served me well from day one in business. Beyond that, one thing I'd like to say, and I think most of us in the room know this, but I think it's worth maybe mentioning for the younger folks, is that life is full of ups and downs. You're going to have lemonade, you're going to have lemons, and if you have people, like I've mentioned at this table here, that you love and trust, get to experience those things together, it makes a world of difference. Drinking lemonade with somebody else, it's way, way better. And the lows are not nearly as low when you have each other to lean on.
I love that. Thank you. All right, speaking of changing trajectory, you originally came to UCF to play football and ended up graduating with an honors in finance. So what skills did you take from the field that helped you the most in business?
Well, anybody that's played sports knows there's a tremendous number of transferable aspects from sports, perhaps the most notable of which is teamwork. Teamwork teaches you how to be selfless, how to operate with a group of people, and function at a high level. Beyond that, there's disciplined showing up to practice every day. You got to show up to work every day if you want to succeed. Just hard work. So there's a lot of things that you learn in sports that could be transferred over to business. The one other thing I'd like to mention, and I have a quick story to follow it up with, is playing sports, particularly football, it teaches you to take a hit and get yourself back up and play the next down, or take a loss and get back up and play the next game. So I remember Sean and I were in our first business model, which was essentially a technology platform. We had built essentially the platform that would connect lenders to dealers in the recreational vehicle industry. So Sean and I were at a conference. It was the largest RV conference in the nation, and we were there to pitch our platform to lenders. So we were, pitching this to the largest financial institutions in the country. And we got to the end of the day, and we were pitching our platform to one of the largest banks out west. And the guy that we met with was arguably old and just grouchy. And by the end of our presentation, he looked at Sean and I and honest to God said, you guys are idiots. If you invested any of your money in this, you're going to lose it all. So
Wow.
naturally, we were demoralized for at least a few minutes, which probably felt like an eternity. And we stepped back, and we had each other to lean on and say, okay, what have we missed? This fellow obviously felt like we were going to commoditize his relationship with dealers, so we had to go back, circle the wagons, think about how to present this differently to the supply side of that equation. So ultimately, we learned to get back up, keep fighting, and we went on to sell that company to a private equity firm 10 years later for a very good valuation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I have a follow-up question to that one as well, because I know we have a number of student athletes in this college, and what you did was incredible. So what advice would you give to them as they plan for their career when they're, what advice do you have for them as they plan for when their playing career ends?
Well, I guess simply put, I would say that business can be, especially my industry, but business in general, as we all know in the audience, is pretty competitive. So, you know, if you're yearning for a competitive environment, it doesn't have to stop when you hang up your jersey or hang up your cleats. You'll be amazed how competitive, you know, the marketplace is in business. So, you don't have to give up that competitive spirit.
Okay, thank you. So, managing a hedge fund in this market isn't for the faint of heart. What's your secret to surviving, succeeding, and leading in times like this?
Well, as a disclaimer, we're a market-neutral hedge fund, so market volatility, as we've seen thus far this year, is not a bad thing to us. In fact, we like volatility. But that said, our business is unlike, or should say, the same as every other. We have ups and downs. So I think what I've found in my career is that you have to stay humble when times are really good, and Sean and I and others have each other to lean on to keep that humility, and you have to be there to pick each other up when times are bad. So keeping that even keel is critically important. You know, and one thing that it took me probably 2 decades to really understand is that life and business is really about the journey. We've all been on this, you know, road trip, whether you took a road trip in college that you remember or maybe last year, and you often realize at the end of the road trip that while the destination is great, it's the journey to get there that matters the most. And I have a quick story to relate to this. So my firm was seeding a venture capital group that was going to invest in early stage companies. This was about 2 years ago. There was an engineer that worked for us, a very talented engineer, and he wanted to spin off and do a venture capital group. My firm invests only in public markets. So we agreed in principle, but I had a lot of work to do. There was 4 other partners that he was banding together with. And successful, accomplished guys. I spent many, many hours with them going through the deal terms. We were going to seed them, provide them with the capital that they needed. In exchange, of course, we had an ownership stake, but I had to go through all the negotiations of deal terms. So it's probably the 8th call we were having. We were pretty much at the finish line for the deal terms. And I looked at the 5 of them. It was on a Zoom call during the pandemic. And I said, I have to tell you guys, I'm really envious of you. And they looked at me like I had 3 heads, because they were managing $0. They were just starting. And my firm was managing $8 billion. So they were like, what the hell is this guy talking about? He wants to be in our shoes, and we want to be in his shoes. And so I felt compelled to answer. I said, it's really cool to go from $8 billion to $9 billion. And it's challenging, as Sean can attest to. But it's crazy cool to go from 0 to $1 billion. And the reward you get from that is unlike anything else.
I can imagine. All right, last question I have for you, because I know you had mentioned your family and Sean, but who are the people who have had been the most important to your success in your career?
That's a tough one. I'm going to say Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, and Bill Murray. No, I'm totally kidding. Although Bill Murray's funny. I'm totally kidding. No, I'm going to give you the conventional answer. My family, has been key to my support throughout my career. They've supported me through all the trials and tribulations. My wife, Rosie, doesn't give me a bad time when I have to work 100-hour weeks. She knows it's just what I have to do to persevere and break through, and so that's, super important. Beyond that, I mentioned, Sean, my business partners. Nolani's another business associate that's here with me tonight. And the people that you go to work with every day, you feed off of them. There's the energy you feed off of. There's the creativity, the collaboration. So it's critical that, you have a good support team and team around you. That's key. Beyond that, I've had some fantastic mentors in my life. My father would be one. My father was a single father from the time I was a young boy, raised me, which was, unheard of almost in the 70s and 80s. And he taught me a degree of work ethic that I think gave me an advantage and an edge over a lot of people. He was a contractor, he was a builder, and he taught himself how to build houses from the foundation to the roof and everything in between. So he used to drag me out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning when I was 10, 11 years old. I hated him for it at the time, but going to those types of job sites and doing hard blue-collar work like that taught me some really good life lessons, and also watching him break through and teach himself things and just, taking the initiative was very liberating to watch somebody do that. Beyond that, I've had some other great mentors in my life, people in the industry, and one thing I would say is an admirable attribute with mentors. A lot of people here in the audience probably have the opportunity to be mentors. I've had some great mentors. When Sean and I started the hedge fund with our other partner, I had to take a crash course in hedge funds. I didn't know a lot about it. Our prior business model was not directly related to this. So I was working 100-hour weeks, and I had one guy in particular that I was able to lean on, and I realized in retrospect after a few years that I probably asked him a tremendous amount of stupid and naive questions, but he never made me feel dumb. It was like a safe zone. So if you get a chance to mentor somebody, I think that's a key element, is to make them feel very comfortable with the mentorship. Did you have another question?
Oh, no, that was actually it for me.
So I have one other thing I want to say real quick. I'm a pretty humble person, so this was not an easy decision for me. I've given money to the university for a few years or longer, and I've done it largely anonymously up until this year. My friends at the university have convinced me that there's a multiplier effect that you can get when you give money. The publicity that you get, it may encourage others or inspire others to give. So I wanted to make an announcement tonight. And again, I'm a humble person. I'm truly doing this hopefully as a catalyst for somebody else in the room. It may be your time today. It may be your time 5 years from now or 10 years from now to pay it forward. But you heard all my roots to UCF. UCF is a very fantastic place for me to pay it forward. Hopefully you'll find the same. So I'm going to commit another $1 million over the next 5 years to UCF. So, and nobody knew I was doing this. I didn't get invited for this reason.
Oh my. Thank you so much, Barry. Everybody give it up for Barry one more time.